Episode 81 of the Interpretation Station is Call to Order. Welcome, everybody. Ahlan wa sahlan to all the Arabic-speaking viewers of the Interpretation Station. We've got a great new show for you again today. Today being August the 1st, 2021, Sunday. Now, I'll let you into a little secret. I was technically meant to be at this very time. It's now 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I was meant to be in Budapest right now. I was meant to be at the Hungaroring to watch. I had tickets for the Hungarian Grand Prix, the Formula One in Budapest. Unfortunately, I went and put my back out 2 or 3 days ago, and I can't travel. So from where I am, I'm in sort of central Serbia. And from where I am, it's like a 5-hour drive to Budapest, and 5 hours in a car there, 5 hours back. Would be a disaster for my back, basically. So I couldn't go. So I thought, well, what's the next best thing? What's the next most constructive thing that I could be doing? So I thought, what the hell? I'll make an episode of the Interpretation Station. An Arabic episode to boot. So here we are. So Formula One's loss is the Arabic-speaking world's gain. Okay, well, I'll tell you what have we got lined up for you today. So I found a statement for you today by Iraq. It was a statement made delivered last month. Now I'm going to share the screen with you so you can actually see it. Now, the actual date isn't written here, so I'm going to have to look that up. But I'll be sure to do that. And then what I'll do, as usual, in the description box, I will leave a link both to this transcript, and I'll also find the original audio so that you can go and try and listen to the statement yourself and interpret it. In fact, maybe you want to go and interpret it first, come back, and then watch the show afterwards to see how your solutions sort of align with my ideas. So what we're going to do, as usual practice, I'm going to take you through what I find the most interesting points in the statement, and then I'm going to give you a sight translation at the end to just to go over any other smaller points that maybe I left out in the main body of the episode. Now, it's a bit of a different statement to the usual ones we've had so far from Arabic. I've concentrated more on specific big political topics with the Arabic statements. I've done a couple on the situation in Syria. I hope you all watched the last episode with my colleague Mohammed Assi, who was kind enough to join me for an episode, and we went through a big statement on the situation in Syria. So we've covered the situation in Palestine. Now, this is a bit more of a nuts and bolts statement that I found for you today. So if you look at the screen, it was delivered في المناقشة العامة. It was during the general debate, agenda item 5. So it's less political in nature. It doesn't really focus so much on big political issues, although there is talk of coronavirus and all that. It's more actually, you'll see a sort of critique of internal United Nations mechanisms. So it's not quite as glitzy or glamorous as previous ones, but as interpreters, we can't pick and choose what statements we want to interpret. As yet, in the UN staff rules and regulations, there is not yet a paragraph or an article stipulating that interpreters may choose which statements they wish to interpret or not. And if the statement is not sufficiently glamorous, then they are fully entitled to decline it while receiving full pay. Unfortunately, that provision has yet to be endorsed. So anyway, as you'll see, it's a bit of a critique of internal UN procedures. It's to do with UN mandate holders, their reports, and so on. And so, yeah, this sort of vocabulary they use here, again, it's very much, as I said, it's very much nuts and bolts, and you need to, you need to know it. So let's, without further ado, without me rabbiting on anymore, let's have a look at the text and see the interesting bits that I've highlighted. Okay, so let's see some of the things that I've marked up here on the text. So I've started off pretty much with the very first word here. Okay, very straightforward, euthymn. Now, I've highlighted that just because it's a good word to always remember, sort of set of different solutions for things like applaud, commend, uh, praise. Okay, so here you could say, you know, the delegation of Iraq praises the important role, commends the important role, applauds the important role. Now, I've underlined this bit, وفد جمهورية العراق, just because I've noticed that in Arabic, you tend to sort of use this construction a lot, you know, either wafd of the Iraq or wafd biladi, the delegation of my country or my country's delegation. That to me sounds a real mouthful, okay? Often, if I hear something similar in other languages, I'll just say the name of the country. I'll just say Iraq, okay? Iraq commends the important role played by. Yeah, you can add in the Iraqi delegation, I guess, but certainly in English, if you just say the name of the country, that it's what's you know it makes the delegation of the country sort of implicit within that. Okay. مكلفين بالولايات, that's a set expression, okay, that you need to know, certainly at least at the UN. These are mandate holders. All right, there's nothing really you can do with that, and nor is there with this bit الإجراءات الخاصة أو التابعة لمجلس حقوق الإنسان. So these are actually United Nations special procedures, الإجراءات الخاصة, mandate holders. Okay. So you need to really know that off by heart. Now, if you happen to be working in Geneva, you're going to come into this. You come across this expression all the time, so you're using it all the time. But if you're not maybe familiar with it, if you're going to do an exam, maybe if ever you come to do a UN exam, it's a pretty good thing to know. Just that, you know, UN Human Rights Council special procedures mandate holders. This is sort of classic Geneva vocabulary. Now, this bit, why have I underlined this bit here? This bit I've underlined because if I was to just sort of render this clause word by word, I would say something along the lines of the activities assigned within the mandates entrusted to them. Now, that's a real mouthful. That's an even bigger mouthful than Wafd Biladi, I tell you. You know, if I was, and the solution here is to learn how to use the word mandate as a verb, okay? There's a tendency to think that maybe mandate is only ever used as a noun. But we, in English, use it a lot as a verb. And if you use a verb here, then that whole word sandwich I gave you a moment ago can just be whittled down to the activities mandated to them by the council. That's it. You don't need to go into any assigning or entrusting or vesting. You just say mandated to them. Now, that's not to say it's not good to know collocations with things like a mandate. What do you do with a mandate? And we'll see, and we'll actually see an example of that just a few lines down. Okay, but now this is another interesting expression for me. في حال كونها لا, in this case, لا تعكس التعاون. Now, this is important because to keep the flow of the sentence, you want to be able to say something fairly, you know, that comes out quite smooth. I don't know. Maybe there's a tendency to think that to revert to the in the event of, okay, any activity performed. تقدم. By the way, good word to know is to perform. That's a good verb to collocate with things like activities, actions, tests, trials, to perform. All right. So any activity performed by mandate holders. Now, as I said, maybe there's a tendency to think in the event of their not reflecting. Okay, I mean, people will understand what you're saying, but I think it's better to say something perhaps like, should they fail to? Should they fail to reflect cooperation? Should they fail to embody the effective cooperation? So I think, you know, if you come across this construction, في حال كونها لا, to think, should they fail to? Should they? You can just say, should they not? Sounds nicer in English if you can get the fail in, but one of those two. Okay, this is a verb that often comes up, and I'm often quite dismissive of. Okay, this tabadhaliha always collocates with juhud, right? And I always say he doesn't really add anything to the sentence if you if you interpret it, I often say it's just easier to leave it out. You know, the efforts of those governments. All right. And again, here you could just leave it out. But okay, let's say you want to have a verb that collocates nicely with juhud. So you've got two options really. You've got invest or expend. You can invest efforts, expend efforts. Now they might actually seem slightly contradictory in that sense. Investing on the one hand, expending on the other. But either go well with efforts. Okay, now this bit here I've underlined. ستؤدي إلى إرسال. Now the reason I've highlighted this is that it seems to again be slightly redundant in this instance. The ستؤدي, okay, it's saying that it will lead to the sending of negative signals. Well, do you need to will lead to? I mean, in this context, you could just say it will send. Doing that will send negative signals. Okay, so I think sometimes when you have this ستؤدي إلى and then with certain verbs in, I believe that's form 4, right? إفعال form. But anyway, in some cases you don't need to go with the will lead to. I think here it just makes just as much sense to just it will send a negative signal. All right. Down here then, الالتزام بالولايات الممنوحة. Now this picks up on what I was actually saying here about the wilayat al-mamnuha. So it's the same expression. Now on this occasion, however, I think it is useful to have a word to collocate with mandate, okay, because it talks about the need to abide by the mandates granted, the mandate entrusted, the mandate vested in them. Okay, it's talking about how the special mandate holders need to abide by those mandates. So you want a couple of options, you know, with to go with mandates, as I say, to vest, to entrust, to confer. There's quite a few. So you want to learn. You want to have at least a couple up your sleeve. Okay, moving on here. Okay, majlisikum al-muwaqqar. Again, useful to have a couple of words here for this. Maybe I like to say this august council, this august body, for example, be distinguished. I mean, he's actually going to use this word a couple of times in the statement, so that's why it occurred to me that it might not be a bad idea to have a couple of alternatives for that word, al-muwaqqar. This esteemed council, any one of those. Okay, al-ibta'ad an. I think that's a good expression to have a good solution for in English. So I like to use, I've said this before, I'm sure, to eschew. That's a very high register, to eschew. You want to eschew, to do without, okay? Unsubstantiated or unconfirmed reports and data. You could also maybe say to steer clear of, which is a slightly lower register, but does the job just as well. So yeah, to eschew, to steer clear of. And then this word, these two words, غير المؤكدة. So maybe so it's talking about reports and data and information. Unconfirmed reports is maybe the simplest answer. I also like unsubstantiated, carries a bit more weight to it when talking about information. Uncorroborated, again, is another good word to go with information that hasn't been confirmed. So yeah, substantiated, corroborated, verified, I guess. Then moving on. يعطي مصداقية. So again, for credibility, so what's a good verb to go with credibility? So I'd say maybe to lend. It lends a lot of credibility. I think that's perhaps, you could say like as in the Arabic, gives credibility, but lend is perhaps just that little notch higher. It's good, so it's good to remember. The reason I highlighted these two as تعاونها وتعمالها. Just because it reminds me in Russian, you have something similar. You have these two words that very similar in meaning, but they're often put together. So I often say cooperation and interaction. Okay, those are the two. There's one word in Russian that I always say cooperation for, and the other word that I always say interaction for, and that always keeps the Russian delegation happy. So you might want to use something similar here. Although I guess you could also say for ta'amaliha ma'adua, their dealings with countries, their cooperation, their dealings with countries. But anyway, just an idea: cooperation and interaction. Okay, here في ظل الدعوة المفتوحة. I was thinking about the best sort of default solution for في ظل. And I know you've got like against the backdrop of, in light of. Kind of think maybe the best one is in the context of. It's the most neutral. In the light of, against the backdrop of, could perhaps carry a slight connotation negatively or positively. In the context of those, completely neutral. Again, you can use any of them, but it's just to sort of put that out there to you. Okay, التعاون المشترك. Here I was thinking mutual cooperation. I know you've got joint cooperation, but I think it's a bit of a repetition. Obviously, if you're cooperating with someone, you're working together with them. So to say joint cooperation, again, it kind of speaks for itself. It's sort of implicit in the word cooperation. Mutual cooperation, though, just carries a bit more weight to it, that you're really trying to, تجاوز جميع العقبات. Again, important collocation here. Overcoming obstacles. We can surmount obstacles. And here again, you've got this fidel that uses it again. And that's why I was thinking in the context of challenges and al-dhuruf al-istithna'iyya. And I thought, I think I was looking at these two, the two times when he used it, and thinking maybe the most neutral option is this in the context of. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the statement. So what I'll do now is I'm just going to go through it, give you a quick sight translation, and I'll just dwell on any other little points that come up along the way that perhaps I overlooked when I was going through it the first time. Okay, so I would say here, okay, thank you, President. Iraq commends the important role played by special mandate holders. I'll have to work on that word. Here when you're doing a role, you play a role basically. Sometimes when it's to do with a wilayat and the verb is yuzatla, then you can discharge a mandate. That's a nice one. I mean, implement is very safe as well, but in this context, it just really played the role played by mandate holders in the context of Human Rights Council special procedures and the activities mandated to them by this council. Now, any activity performed by mandate holders, should they fail to embody effective, genuine cooperation by the government, and also the efforts by those governments, in particular in the reports submitted by them to the council, will send a negative signal to other countries in the context of cooperation with Human Rights Council special procedures, and this including with my country, Iraq. That is a hell of a long sentence, isn't it? And I was really trying to think where you could perhaps break it up, and it's hard because this whole bit. So this is a very tricky sentence to do, and I was looking for possible ways of breaking it up, but it's very hard because really, from the moment he goes from fihal, should they fail to reflect the effective cooperation, all the way down to al-majlis, min qablihim ila al-majlis. That's all like one clause, and then it carries on. All of that, the above, will send a negative signal to other countries about this, that, and the other, including Iraq. So this is really, really very difficult to break that sentence up. You can break it up here anyway, at least. We also stress the importance of abiding by the mandate conferred, guaranteeing ongoing cooperation between governments and special procedures. So your opportunity to break the sentence up doesn't really come until pretty much this point here. Okay, then on we go. So we urge mandate holders through your august council to work to address the problems and concerns objectively by eschewing reports and information, unsubstantiated information. Remember, that's that trick. If you're not expecting the adjective, you're just thinking. If you've said the two nouns, in this case, like I did, the reports and the information. This was a good example, actually, and I was forgetting that there was an adjective coming up. So notice what I did. I just repeated it by eschewing reports and information, unsubstantiated reports, and strengthening and encouraging national government efforts. This in turn, so this is a good place to put a full stop, okay, where it says وَأَلَذِي, between al-Watani and وَأَلَذِي. So this in turn will reduce the time necessary to overcome those problems and will lend greater credibility to council instruments for cooperation and interaction with states. Okay, so, and then on to the final paragraph. In conclusion, Iraq continues to cooperate with your esteemed council and its instruments, and with all UN instruments in the context of the open call al-mawjuha to mandate holders. So here I think this is again a redundant word, al-mawajjaha. Okay, the call, I mean, again, you could direct it to mandate holders, but I think you can just get away with saying just the open call to mandate holders in the context, within national contexts, to guarantee the human rights for their citizens. Full stop here. And we look forward to, we hope to develop or expand this mutual cooperation and transcend all the obstacles. Transcends a word that I haven't used in a while. It's a pretty good verb actually you can transcend obstacles. You can transcend mandates. That's the idea of you're going over, you're going outside your mandate, you're exceeding a mandate. So, but you can transcend obstacles in the context of the challenges and the exceptional circumstances, ظروف الاستثنائية. I was trying to think of a better, shorter way of saying the exceptional circumstances, but it's pretty tricky. That we are facing. Okay, literally, I know it's saying that we are going through التي نمر بها, but again, you could say that we're facing, that we're going through before us. You can even say the exceptional circumstances before us, in order to attain the highest level. That's a good combination of words, a good collocation, attaining a high level of human rights for all. Okay, thank you, President. There you have it. Okay, so I hope there are a couple of interesting things there. As always with these Arabic, well, any statements, with me on the interpretation station, I do very much welcome your input. If you've got some better ideas for some of these words, for some of the expressions, please do feel free to put them in the comments. And also, if there's anything maybe I've overlooked, I will just correct myself before, because I know I was talking here with فِي كُونِهَ لا تعاكس, التعاون, and so I think I said embody for ta'akas at one point. So it's really, isn't it? Should they fail to reflect the cooperation? So he's talking about the activities of those the mandate holders and their failure, perhaps, to reflect the good cooperation, the effective cooperation that states have had with them. So yeah, it would definitely ta'akas here would definitely be reflect as opposed to embody. Okay, so should they fail to reflect the effective cooperation that states have had. Okay, so yes, if you've enjoyed the episode, you know what to do. Smash the like button, share it with your friends, colleagues, and so on. I guess you'll be going back to school soon, eh? University starting soon. For those of you more junior, share it with your teacher, share it with your friends. Do subscribe if you're finding it useful. I'm doing my best to put out new stuff every day on the LinkedIn group. Keep following me there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as I said at the start of the episode, I was at this time meant to be sitting in the stands at the Hungarian Grand Prix in Budapest, but fate decided that it wasn't to be so. Oh well, instead of Formula One, it's you who've got the benefit of my company. I hope you have learned something from me today. I've enjoyed making the episode, as I always do. As I say, please do leave comments. And yeah, nothing more to be said other than that episode 81 of the Interpretation Station stands adjourned.